Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video, I am doing another collab with Miss Rachel from Shimmers in Silver. We are going to be talking about our least favorite palettes from 5 of our favorite brands. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bri and I'm just a crazy lover of all things beauty, and I like to post a lot of fun, colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot in any makeup, so if that is what you're into, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. But with that being said, let's get into this video. I'm so excited to be doing another collab with Rachel. She is such a sweetheart, and the past 2 videos we did together, we talked about our favorite spring palettes last year, and then another time we did if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes in our collection. They were such fun videos to film, and I really like working with her. She is so sweet, she's amazing, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she is a crazy lover of eyeshadow palettes, especially colorful eyeshadow palettes. She loves to play with different colors, try different looks, get creative, and she does a lot of like makeup tutorials on her channel. She features a lot of older palettes, which like a lot of the bigger YouTubers tend to only show you the new most of the time. So Rachel, thank you for collabing with me again and reaching out. But before we get into the palettes and the different brands, I did want to mention that I did film this look. That video should already be up before this one. I'll link it below, I'll put it up in the corner. But I actually have the Spring Dragon palette with Oud inside. This is a collab with Beaute for this fun pastel look. I think it came out so beautiful, so in case you're curious about that. But now we can get into the 5 brands and the 5 palettes. So I do have more than 5 favorite brands, but I picked these specific brands because I have a least favorite palette in my collection from them, because normally when I don't like something I will declutter it, and I do a declutter every year. So a lot of my other favorite brands I've already let go of my least favorite palette from them, and I wanted to do this video where I actually had the palette on hand to talk about, if that makes any sense. So we'll start off with my favorite, more luxury, more bougie brand, which is Natasha Denona. I love her brand, but I haven't been buying palettes lately from them for some reason. I kind of scaled back and was really focusing on like smaller indie brands, but I adore Natasha Denona's eyeshadow formula. I love all the palettes that I have in my collection, and I use them quite often. So I do need to go and pick up some things, maybe when they have another sale, maybe the Sephora sale, because I've been wanting the Yucca palette for a while now, and I think I just need to pick it up. Anyways, so my least favorite palette from the brand, which if you watch my channel quite often, you already know that it is the Natasha Denona pastel palette, which is funny because I have pastels on my eyes right now that are super amazing, and this palette is a lot cheaper than this palette. So this one right here, I thought was going to be like my ultimate best pastel palette in my collection, but it did not do that for me. And this is what, a $69 palette, and it just fell short. And I have so many other pastel palettes in my collection that are cheaper than this that perform way better, like the Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet palette as well. There's like a lot that I already have in my collection, so this did not end up being it. I felt like the pastels weren't as pigmented as I wanted them to be. The cream to powder ones kind of were dry when I received them, kind of crumbled as I try to spread them on my lids. And I'm familiar with Natasha Denona's cream formula. I know that you go in there, you want to use more of a packing brush, kind of pack them on and use it more like you're using a cream shadow, not just like spread it over like you would with a powder shadow. But even with that, I was still having this crumbly dry effect on the lids. So I just wasn't impressed by it, and I thought the shimmers were pretty, but they weren't nothing special. They're not really dual chromes or like having any special shifts to them. They're just, you know, regular metallic. So overall, I just wasn't really happy with the like actual quality of it. I thought the color story was pretty. I was really excited for this one. I bought it as soon as it launched, but ever since I filmed that review video, I have not touched this. And because I'm a crazy lover of Natasha Denona, I just can't get myself to let it go. Like I don't know why I'm holding on to it. I mean, there are shadows that are workable, but I haven't touched it since. So that's a telltale sign that that was not a favorite of mine from Natasha Denona. Then the next brand that I have a few least favorite palettes from is Uden's Eye, which I adore that brand. Okay, I've featured them a lot on my channel. I buy pretty much all of their launches, but I do have actually two that are my least favorite, and I was just gonna mention one, but I was like, you know what, I want to mention both of them because they're probably equally least favorites for like different reasons. So the first one is the Elva 2 palette, which is a colorful one. This is one of their older palettes. I believe this has their older formula. I feel like their newer palettes, like the formula is so on point with the mattes and metallics. So it's not as good as the other ones. And I think the color story is not that like inspiring. It's just kind of like, you know, rainbow color story. And then this one also has two pressed glitters, which I'm not the hugest fan. Like, I'll use pressed glitters every now and then, but I don't really feel like they're necessary to be in a palette. I rather have them in like a side palette, like the ones I have from Nabla that are more companion palettes, or just like for glitters when I'm in that mood. I don't really love them being in a like palette like this. And then I just felt like it wasn't anything special. Like the metallics are just more of those, you know, true cream metallics. There's not really any special dual chromes or anything in here. So this was like really at the more early stages of Uden's Eye. When I first got it, I really loved it. But as their formula has gotten better and better, I love those palettes even more, like all their recent ones, because they have like more dual chromes, multi-chromes. Their mattes are more pigmented. And overall, just everything is a lot better when it comes to their eyeshadows. Even though I still think this is good, especially good for when it came out, it's just not a go-to of mine, especially not a go-to rainbow palette. I have so many that I really love in my collection. So this is definitely a least favorite at this point. And then a fairly new one that I was disappointed by, and I even mentioned it in my review video, was the Snow Dream palette from Uden's Eye. This was from their holiday release last year. They came out with like two new Christmas palettes, and then they relaunched the older Christmas palettes, and this just didn't match up to how good the older Christmas palettes were. This one was just a little underwhelming, a little too light. There wasn't a lot of depth in here. I just didn't feel like this palette was making me feel inspired or really giving me much. So you see right here, it's just more on the lighter end, which would probably work if you have a lighter skin tone. Maybe this is a preference of yours, but it's weird for me to see a palette like this and have the metallic actually be the darkest shade, like this purple one right here. And then I kind of just had to build a lot, especially like these two. I didn't really need like a peachy and then a yellowy beige shade. I just felt like that was redundant. And then, I don't know, I just had a little harder time trying to put looks together, because you have like a brown, these beiges, like some greens, and then like a red and this warm kind of reddish brown. And I just had a hard time trying to pair it with some of these shimmers, like this teal one, like this purple one. I just felt like they didn't really coordinate very well with the mattes. And then they put this more like holographic shade right here that has all these holographic shimmers in it. And that had such terrible fallout. I had just sparkles everywhere in my face, all over my hair. And then when I tried to take it off, it was like impossible to get the shimmers off my lids. Like I just had shimmers on my face for days. It wasn't my favorite holographic formula. It was intense on the shimmer fallout. It was a lot. So this wasn't my favorite palette in terms of color story and even formula. It just didn't match up and live up to their holiday palettes. So I had to mention this as just not something I see myself gravitating towards a lot. I definitely would probably use that more as like a companion palette. Then the next brand is Unearthly Cosmetics, which they're definitely like an edgy, more grungy brand that's a little spooky. They do interesting themes, very interesting, innovative color stories. So I went through my collection and I actually found a palette that I forgot I even had and have not thought about in a long time. So that was like, you know what? That's probably not a favorite palette of mine from them. So it is the Smells Like Holiday Spirit palette. This came out when they were called Alien Cosmetics. So it came out a while ago. And at the time when I got it, I really did like it. This was when I was getting into indie brands, and I was like, oh, this is so different from like mainstream brands. It's so creative, so colorful and grungy. But now with my collection and all the palettes I've tried and how formulas have improved a lot with a lot of indie brands, this isn't a favorite or excites me as much anymore. Now, the mattes in here are not bad. I think they're pigmented, they work fine, but the metallics in here are quite underwhelming. They're those very like traditional kind of satiny, creamy metallics that don't really have any extra sparkle. They don't really have any shifts, and that's what I'm into. Some of these actually have a little bit of hard pan forming on them, like this one right here. And they're just kind of underwhelming metallics, especially when it comes to what my aesthetic is now with different metallic formulas. And then I think the color story doesn't flow very well. Like all the shades don't really work that great with each other. I mean, I know like the greens would probably work, maybe this purple, maybe even this one, but it's overall on the darker side, so there's no really brightening shades besides this green one. And then I don't know, I just feel like when I was trying to put looks together, I just felt like every time I created a look, something was missing. Because like if I went in with these greens, then this one right here, I felt like this was more like an inner corner highlight shade. I wish that there was like a metallic that was in between that. Same when I was using this purple with this purple here, I was like, oh man, I wish I had like a deeper purple to deepen it up instead of having to use this brown or, you know, using this gray, because they were kind of in the same tone level. So I just felt like something was always missing for my looks whenever I did play with this. I do also feel like this wasn't super popular because they didn't sell out of this one like they did the other holiday palette that they had that came out at the same time. I think they had this forever, then maybe they discounted it. It wasn't one of their popular releases from what I can remember. Now going on to Glamlite, which they're still good. They're based out of Australia. They're an amazing indie brand. Beautiful, intense metallics and mattes. But this one right here, I don't know. When I tried it, I even think I mentioned it in the video as it didn't appeal to me as much as some of their other palettes, which is the Glamorous palette. Now, the formula is fine in here. Same quality, really nice, rich mattes, beautiful metallics. I just think it's more of the color story that does not excite me about this one. So we have these like reddish tone mattes that look very similar once you put them on the eyes. So I feel like that was really redundant. Then you have these two teals that look really redundant. Like they look pretty close to each other. And even like these purples. So I felt like there was just some kind of repetitive shades. I wish that there was more variety in here. I didn't need these two purples. I didn't need these two teals. I didn't need these two reddish berry tones. So right there we have 6 shades that I just felt. So there you have like, there could have been, so at least 3 of the mattes could have been switched out with something else. And then when I look at this, I just don't feel as inspired. I don't feel like I can see all these unique looks that I can create, even though the formula is amazing in here. And I mean, I don't know, something about it just doesn't pull me in. And I just think it's the redundancy of the shades that make me less want to use it. But this is definitely maybe something I could see myself using more as a companion palette. I mean, really you can do a teal, a berry look, or a purple look, or kind of mix those shades up with one another. So I don't know, I don't think I can create as many eye looks with this either. And then it has this beautiful bell shade. I wish there's like maybe an olive matte would have been nice in here. Switched out one of these redundant shades. Maybe even like a blue or something. Maybe even like a mustardy yellow could have been thrown in here. I don't know. And then it doesn't give me glamorous when I see the shadows. So I just wasn't as excited for the overall color story in here. Formula is still really good. And then the last brand that I'm going to mention a palette from is Beaute Cosmetics. Now, I love this brand mainly for their crazy beautiful metallics, and they tend to make a lot of like all metallic palettes or palettes that are mostly concentrated on metallics and less mattes. And I am a shimmer metallic girly. That is my vibe. I could do an all shimmer look every day, all day. That's just what I like. So they appeal to me in that sense. But there was this palette that came out, and in the review I told you guys that this just was not a favorite of mine, and it's the La Cienega palette from Adept Cosmetics. This was supposed to be like a more nudie take for their brand. Now they've come out with a more nudie palette recently, the Flying Fiddles one, which is really, really good. But it has these more like, you know, nudie mattes, and then it has these foils down here. What I thought was interesting is they have all these like nudie mattes, but then like all the shimmers are like blue, like mainly blue, like this really deep blue. Then these like lighter blues, and then this one right here, it's kind of silvery almost on camera, but it's more like a light blue that works as like a really pretty inner corner highlight that has a gold shift. So I just thought it was kind of weird to do like nudie mattes and not really pair them with intense nudie shimmers. I don't know, like why all the blues when there's not even a blue matte in the palette. Also, some of the shades were very textured and scratchy. Like this one right here, Redondo Beach. Wasn't a fan of. The PCH one too was also quite flaky. Almost felt like they kind of performed like a pressed glitter that had like a little bit of a gel base to it. And they kind of got thick on the lids. They creased really bad on me no matter what shimmer I use. No matter what kind of primer or glitter primer that I tried to use under it, I couldn't get them to work on my eyelids. And that alone made me not want to gravitate towards this palette. So I do like the mattes in here. I just don't think the shimmers really make sense with the mattes besides the Santa Monica shade right here. And overall, I just didn't love the formula of some of the metallics in here. So I'm just not really inspired by this. I don't find the color story cohesive, and I felt like there was some quality issues with the shimmers. It just didn't totally make sense for me. So it's definitely not a favorite of mine. One I haven't really reached for in a long time. I may have only used it when I did the review video. I don't think I've pulled for this since. Maybe I used it a couple times after that to kind of test it a little more to give my final thoughts and like a ranking video, but that was it. I haven't used it since. Like I don't even think about it. And so that was everything for this video, my 5 least favorite palettes from some of my favorite brands. It was so much fun going through my collection and trying to figure this out, because oftentimes when I really love a brand, it's hard for me to think about something I don't like from them. But when I thought through it, went through everything, I was like, yeah, those are the ones that I just don't love as much as their other palettes. But you guys will now have to let me know, what are your thoughts in the comments below? What are your least favorite palettes from some of your favorite brands? I would love to hear from all of y'all. And if you're new here and you enjoy this video, you like a lot of fun, colorful makeup content, you like a lot on indie makeup and all that good stuff, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I would love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. I will have other videos of mine you might be interested in watching, like my other collab videos that I did with Rachel. Like I said in the beginning, I will have Rachel's video below so you can check out what her least favorite palettes are from her favorite brands, as well as her socials. Please check her out. She is an amazing content creator. I really enjoy her videos. I will also have my makeup linked in case you're curious on what foundation and all the things that I'm wearing on my face, as well as the video linked of me putting this eye look together. Like I said, I did film it with the Spring Dragging palette, so if you want to see this look in action, definitely check that one out. And I will also have my contact and my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_Beauty. So if you want to join my Instagram fam, I would really love that. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video, for being here, supporting me, being amazing. You guys are the best, and I appreciate you guys so much. And I just hope all of you are doing well wherever you are in the world, and just send you guys so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.